Hello everyone, in this video we are going to talk about dining etiquette from US, UK and Indonesia. This video was made for final project American and British culture. But before we start, you need to know about us. I'm Hanif from Fadillah with my partner Adristi Maharani. We are from Applied Foreign Language Vocational College, Diponegoro University. Here's a mind map about what we are going to discuss today. Without any further ado, let's break it down. First thing first, we need to know about etiquette. So, what is etiquette? Etiquette, in general, is described as the customary code of polite behavior in communities. Etiquette in a region is usually different from etiquette in other regions. Etiquette mostly circles around the culture or the habits of the local people. There are several characteristics of etiquette in general, such as only applies within the scope of the association. When someone is mingling with people, he or she should know the etiquette of where he or she stands at the moment. Regarding to the way someone should behave, someone's behavior mostly connects to where he or she is at the moment. Etiquette control this kind of behavior to match the place. For instance, something that should be done in a room is strictly forbidden to be done in public for a good reason. Etiquette is relative, different on each regions. Cultures and habits of people are usually different from each region. Environment and the local culture affect whether a behavior is rude or not. Sometimes, in one place, it's rude to do something, but in other places, it might not be rude at all. And the last, only judging someone from the outside. Since most people respect good manners and think that someone who has good behavior is reflecting what is inside his or her heart. Sometimes it makes it easy for irresponsible people to take it for granted. And where does dining etiquette begin? In a painting by the 18th century from French artist Gardin, two young children are sitting down to eat. Their table is set in a kitchen of a great house, with pots and pans hanging on the walls, but it is elegantly laid. There is a cloth at the table and two grand chairs for the children to sit at as they use their silver cutlery under a maid supervisor. It is 1740 and they are learning to eat, or rather, they are learning table manners. Basically, table manners are the rules of etiquette that are used when people eat their foods at a dining table. Table manners also include the appropriate use of cutlery and utensils. Different cultures might come with different rules when it comes to table manners. Table manners are not formed instantly. The quality of table manners should be shaped from childhood, or maybe teens. With the everyday habit of applying table manners, the process of learning will give better results. When table manners are formed instantly, it will create table manners that are inflexible and clumsy.
So, the first one, let's talk about British table manner. From invitations. Invitations to a meal at someone's house usually mean a relaxed, light-hearted occasion. Men, particularly younger men, don't wear business suits or ties on these occasions. They change into something smart but casual. Women probably wear elegant rather than very glamorous clothes. These are the example of the clothes they are wearing. Now let's move to gratitudes. Usually after the meals, the guests send a short note of thanks. Some people prefer to telephone to the following day, and the younger generation will communicate by text or social media. However, the British people still bringing some gifts if someone invites them to the meal, and the gifts usually are either a wine, flowers, or a box of chocolate. These are the do and don'ts list from British table manner. The first one, men should seat the ladies first and rise when they leave and return to the table. The second one, Wait for your host to start eating first or to give the signal. The next one, you may eat chicken and pizza with your hands only at a barbecue. Otherwise, you use a knife and fork. Don't put your elbows or resting chin on your hands at the table. The next one, soup should be spooned away from you with the bowl tilted away and refrain from blowing on it. Never mix, mash, scrape, or move your food with your finger. Don't chew or talk with an open mouth or lick your knife. Don't use any form of gadget at the table. And if the food is stuck between your teeth, don't dislodge it at the table. And the last one, if bread rolls are served, break them with your fingers, not with your knife. Only small piece of roll at a time should be buttered with a butter knife. Now let's move to the tipping culture in Britain. Traditionally, a tip of 10% or slightly more has been left for the waiter or waitress, regardless of the quality of food or service. Sometimes, a service charge is added to the bill, which solves the problem if you are prepared to pay it, as most people do. And these are the example of where the tip is added to the bill. Uh, Both of them stated that there is a service charge, like the left one is about 12.5% of the total, and the right one is about 15% of the total. The next one is British eating habits. The first one, Britain consumes more junk food and ready-made meals than anywhere else in Europe. It is proven by the fact that 60% of adults are overweight and 25% are obese. In schools across Britain, nutrition and basic cooking techniques have been re-emphasized as a part of the national curriculum in a bid to get the future generations eating more healthily. And the second one, table talk. Based on survey, there are only 20% of those polled sat down to dinner together once a week, and 75% eating together regularly while watching TV. Now let's move to American dining ethic. Let's see from the invitation first. The first one, a firm commitment of dining or having a meal together is made when there's a consent from both sides. The host offers and the guest accepts. In the US, if an American says, we must get together sometime, perhaps we could meet on Tuesday, and his friend agrees, a firm commitment hasn't been made. However, if that person names a specific date and time, like for example, how would you like to come to dinner on Tuesday at 6? And his friend accepts, the American host assumes that a firm commitment has been made and that his friend will arrive on Tuesday at 6 p.m. Because invitations are sometimes agreed upon in informal conversation and will probably not be followed by a written invitation. And the second one, when a written invitation is received, the guest is expected to call or text or message the host to accept or decline the invitation. Once an invitation has been accepted, the commitment to attend is regarded as a firm obligation to be respected by both guest and host, even if other invitations for the same time are received later. In addition, it is assumed that guests will accept no other invitations for a later hour on the same evening they are invited for dinner. And the next one, unless the host indicates otherwise, an invitation offered to a guest is only for that person. Americans usually prepare for a specific number of guests and often plan to have a similar number of male and female guests. Therefore, for a dinner guest to arrive with one or two unannounced friends is considered impolite and embarrassing to the host who may not have prepared enough food for extra people, or who may not have enough room for them at the table. And then the last one, don't be late, arrives on time. In the US, punctuality is one of the most highly valued traits a person can have. To be late for an engagement or an invitation is insulting to the person who's waiting. Therefore, guests invited for dinner at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, for instance, are expected to arrive at 6 p.m., perhaps at 6:05, but not later than 6:15. Guests who are unable to be on time should call their host at the earliest possible moment, both to explain their lateness and to give an estimated arrival time. Now let's talk about gratitudes. Some expressions of thanks are considered appropriate when hospitality has been extended and received. Guests express appreciation in various ways. The first one, after receiving dinner, guests often present a gift to the hostess. This is considered a nice gesture but not a necessary one. And the next one, a written thank you note or a telephone call to the hostess delivered or given within 1 week after the engagement is the most common and often most welcome expression of appreciation. So it's either they present a gift or a thank you note to the hostess. For the gifts, it is important to note that you should not bring something which seems like you expect to have it served at this event. Most importantly, don't be cheap. Your gift should be something near to above the quality the host would get for themselves. For the gifts, usually they get the hostess of flowers, plants, wine, or a box of chocolate. These are the do and don'ts list for American table manner. The first one, don't tilt your chair back. The second one, keep elbows close to your body when cutting and eating, and don't put it on the table. In public, never criticize or bring attention to the eating habits of others. Chew with your mouth closed. Always place your napkin on your lap and never put the napkin on the table during the meal. Don't talk with your mouth full. If you are chewing gum, dispose of it before you sit down to eat. Don't hum, sing, or whistle at the table. Do not salt or season your food until after you taste it. Don't put your fingers in your mouth or pick food out of your teeth at the table. Never slurp your soup. Do not begin to eat until everyone is served. And lastly, don't wave your knife and fork in the air as you talk. Now we are getting to the tipping culture of Americans expect to tip for any personal service they receive, regardless of the rate of pay of the service provider. These are the amounts that usually Americans tip for each occasion. The first one, for drinks at a lounge or bar. They usually tip at least $1 until $2 per round per drink. And the second one, tipping for your coffee is not necessary in the US, but it is appreciated, especially if you are at a cafe with table service. You will want to tip around 15% on the top of the order. The next one, the next one, at restaurants where you have a dedicated waiter, 15% is standard, but 18 until 25% of the total bill is a good rule of thumb. And last, if you are eating out at a fast food restaurant or a cafe with self-service, tipping isn't necessary. Now let's move to American eating habits. The first one, alcoholic drinks are sometimes offered before and during the meal. Guests who are unable to consume alcoholic beverages for religious, medical, or personal reasons may request non-alcoholic drinks to the hostess. And the next one, Americans usually eat junk food everywhere. The prevalence of fast food is simply shocking. Like there are Dunkin' Donuts in every corner, you can't get away from it. Compared to UK, US is on another level for the junk food.
And the last country is Indonesia. There are over 300 ethnic groups, more than 700 living languages, and 6 official religions recognized in Indonesia. This is why there are so many traditions and habits spread all over the islands. Every ethnic group has its own culture and traditions and modern language. Every person in an ethnic group also adheres to different religions, which will absolutely have their own rules and customs. These facts make Indonesia have a mixture of traditions that may differ from one place to another. Therefore, Indonesia is known as a country full of diversity among others, as well as Indonesian etiquette. However, Indonesia has different characteristics in dining. While the Western countries start to change the function of dining, Indonesia keeps maintaining their dining traditions and etiquette, mostly due to a lot of Muslim, as the value of Indonesian culture. Talking about table manners in Indonesia, it's basically a combination of general table manners and the traditional table manners that are applied in Indonesia. Different occasions might use different table manners. There is some Indonesian etiquette. On some occasion, you might eat your food using traditional table manners that only can be found in Indonesia. These table manners that are related with Indonesian custom are still very strong in Indonesia, especially when you attend traditional events or ceremonies. But when you are invited to a formal dinner by your colleagues, you will use general table manners instead. For example, table manners that are applied when you come to events or ceremonies that use Javanese custom. If you eat with Japanese table manners, every move, saying, and attitude that you show should be noticed. When you come to a family dinner in Indonesia, the seats are provided for the most respected persons or the elders. If the elders don't take a seat, other people who attend the dinner are not allowed to be seated. The dinner will also start after the elders start to eat. You are also not allowed to make noise when you chew your food as well. With Muslim as the majority, most of food in Indonesia must be halal. It's a law which prohibits the consumption of pork and alcohol. Usually, restaurants who don't provide halal food will put a sign or tell their customer that their menu is contain pork or alcohol. The important etiquette to remember during the days of Ramadan is that you shouldn't invite a Muslim to join meal in the day. In Ramadan, it is also advisable to avoid eating in front of them during the day. In Indonesia, you need to choose gifts carefully. Every Indonesians come from different ethnic and religions. Therefore, it is recommended to learn about one's background before you give her or him a present. Giving alcohol, pork, and anything that contains pig in it to Muslim are highly forbidden. Do not give beef or anything that contains cow in it to Hindus. Also, an umbrella shouldn't be a gift for Chinese Indonesian people because it is only mean you don't want to see them again. Unlike in Western countries, where people usually eat using a fork and knife, in Indonesia, most people eat using a spoon and fork. Some people even eat using their hands, especially when they are eat in traditional ceremonies. It is very common to eat using a spoon, fork, and hand. Rarely one finds a knife on table unless the menu is thick. Some of the rules in Indonesian dining that might be different in international dining. You should consider these following manners. First, make sure to chew the food with a closed mouth. Second, close your mouth when coughing or sneezing. If you don't, some people will feel disgust with you. Third, don't lay on your back into the chair. Don't put your shoulder or back to the abutment of the chair unless you will be considered an impolite person. Fourth, Don't make any noise while sipping the soup. Some countries will suggest you to make a sound when sipping soup to consider it as a delicious soup. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, you shouldn't do it because the people will be bothered by your sipping sound. Fifth, don't use any phone when dining. If you have a phone call when dining, you could ask for permission to accept the phone call. Then don't forget to get up from the dining table. Next, don't stare at other people's eyes while they are eating. Don't speak with a loud voice. Don't make any noise with the dining utensils. Never inform someone that he or she had a bad dining etiquette. And last, let the older people to take the food first. Indonesia is very special and unique country, especially when it comes to eating habits. So here's 10 authentic eating habits in Indonesia. Let's check it out. Rice is the star of every meal. For Indonesians, it is not eating without rice. A meal without rice doesn't complete even when the dish already contains a carbo. Therefore, some restaurants create a service of unlimited free rice. That means a refill of rice to satisfy their customers' need. For instance, eating noodles with rice. Although the noodles include carbohydrates, some Indonesian people always mix it with rice. Generally, instant noodles are only considered as a snack while relaxing. However, as you know, it's considered very unhealthy in international eyes. But who cares? We're Indonesian. We need 1,000 carbohydrates in our daily life. Sambal, cracker, and rice are a match made in heaven. While rice is the primary food, sambal and crackers are important condiments. There are hundreds of kinds of sambal in Indonesia. They are not only spicy but they also have unique taste. When warm rice and sambal meet crackers, it's just a match made in heaven. That is the true Indonesian culinary experience. Just like sambal, Indonesia also have dozens of types of crackers, or usually we call it kerupuk. Only hands as the utensil. The influence from both Hindu, Buddhist, and Muslim has resulted in the forbidden of using left hand to eat or to give present to someone. Almost every kind of activity is using the right hand or advisable using the right hand, such as eating, drinking, giving presents, accepting presents, and etc. When one can't help but to use their left hand when they're giving things to someone, they usually say sorry about it and give the reason why she or he can use their right hand at the moment. In Indonesia, since most people use their hands to eat, there is a thing called kobokan. Kobokan is a small bowl filled with water to wash one's hand before and after eating. You will find kobokan mostly in Sundanese or Padang restaurants. To be a native in Indonesia is very easy. Other than speaking with slang, you should eat with your hands. This is the Indonesian eating lifestyle. It may not sound hygienic, but don't judge it before you try the sensation. It will just increase your appetite for every scoop of rice you have in your hand. No napkin, but toilet paper. It's another culinary experience in Indonesia. Instead of serving napkins, our restaurants provide toilet paper on the table for customers. Some people aren't bothered by the fact that they clean themselves with the same napkin they use in the toilet. All that matters is that they have the same function. Toilet paper is cheaper than napkins. That way, restaurants can save some money. However, this thing can only be found in small restaurants and street food. It will result in a bad image if big restaurants do it. Maximum family atmosphere with lesehan. One of the best culinary experiences you can have in Indonesia is lesehan. Moreover, if you have lesehan and eat with your hands. Lesehan is similar to an is Asian dining experience where you sit on a floor with a tiny table. When you go to an authentic Japanese or Korean restaurant, you may have experienced this lesehan style. The magical thing about lesehan is that it can bring out the best convivial ambience. It is not just about eating, but also exchanging stories. Touchscreen restaurant called Warteg. Warteg is a abbreviation of Warung Tegal or Tegal restaurant. Tegal is a city in central Java that is very popular with its thick Javanese accent. It is typical family business in a form of a small restaurant. The restaurant serves a different menu of Indonesian home cooking. The foods are ready to serve and displayed in a display window, and the place to eat surrounds that display window. To order, you can just call the server to touch the display window where the foods are, and the server will take everything you touch into your plate. Voila! No technological equipment needed. 5 minutes rule. This habit is rather dirty, but because of love and abstinence from throwing food, this culture is so rooted in our life. Food that falls off a plate or from a fryer may be picked or eaten again for not 5 minutes yet reason. The best, the last. This is one of the unique eating habits in Indonesia. The best food is spent in the last moments. Usually on the plate, they already have their own divisions, such as the most delicious and the pretty. The most delicious on the plate will be the last. The first edible feeding continues the last of the most delicious. Often, like egg yolks, meat, fish, chicken skins, and the like. Last, portion. Indonesians like to eat with unbelievably large portions, so they often eat with two plates or another. Even some restaurants provide dishes with large portion at a very affordable price. The restaurants support it, and we Indonesians like it, so we keep eating until our stomach reach its limits. Let me taste it. This thing happens only with friends and family. If you eat with them, sometimes they say, it looks good. Here, let me taste it. And then they eat a bit with our food. However, hey, don't be mad about it. The good thing is, you can do it too. So don't keep yourself from asking the same to your friends and family. Actually, tipping is not mandatory in Indonesia, but it is like a social agreement that travelers usually do it to appreciate someone. The rate of tipping usually depends on the place and the job. The most common place for giving a tip is in a restaurant. Some restaurants will add 10 to 15% of the bill for service charge, but if they don't pay a service charge, the customer could tip between 20,000 rupiah to 15% of their bill. Besides, if you need a delivery or a service, you could give a tip to the courier. Giving the courier 10% to 15% of your bill will be enough. Then, consider what you should do and not do before giving a tip to someone. First, use the suitable currency. And second, you need to aware about good timing of tipping. When you give the tip at an appropriate time, they will be really thankful for it. However, when you don't consider the good timing, they will mean it as a humiliating thing. Although some service workers have no objection accepting tips at the crowd, it will be better for you to give without being seen by others.
Let's see the comparison between United States, United Kingdom, and Indonesia dining etiquette. The first one about the cutleries. US and UK usually use knife and fork and a napkin in their table. Meanwhile, Indonesia usually use spoon and fork, but mostly Indonesia is authentic with eating only with our hands. Now let's see the difference of how each countries use the cutleries. British or in UK, they held the fork in the left hand and then they hold the knife in the right hand. They hold the fork with the prongs facing down and they take the food from the plate with their left hand with the fork but not leaving the knife on the plate. Meanwhile, American or in the US, they hold them the same way, but the difference is when they gonna bring the food to their mouth. American bring the food with their right hand. So after they cut it like the usual way, they swap the fork to the left hand and leave the knife on the plate and then take the food to the mouth with the right hand. And also the prongs of the fork is facing up. It's not like how British eat. And in Indonesia, we use spoon and fork like the usual way, like how British use knife and fork, but the knife is replaced with spoon. So the spoon in the right hand and the fork is the left hand. Sometimes we only use spoon, but on some occasions we use both of them, spoon and fork. Now let's move to the next slides where we're gonna talking about the comparison of some points in each countries, which could be the similarities or the difference. The first one is about dining appointment. All these three countries, US, UK, and Indonesia, need to make a deal appointment, which is all of them are similar regarding to the dining appointment. And the next one is for the gifts. In US and UK, they are similar when giving gifts to the hostess. They usually give wine, a box of chocolate, or flowers. Meanwhile in Indonesia, we give anything except forbidden items such as alcohol and pork for Muslims, beef for Hindus, and umbrella for Chinese Indonesian. So it is customed as how the person's background. Like if they are Muslims, we forbid to give them alcohol and pork. If they are Hindus, we forbid to give them beef. But and if they are Chinese Indonesian, we don't give them an umbrella. And the next one is about dining dress code. US and Indonesia have similarities where they don't have specific dress codes unless it is a formal invitation. But in UK, they have specific dress code depends on the invitation. So usually the invitations also say about the dress code. Like they have to wear something smart or casual or something. They always stated in the invitation. And the last one is about tipping. In US and UK, it is mandatory to do. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, it is not a mandatory to do. In Indonesia, it's not so necessary to tip the waiter, unlike the US and UK. Now let's see the comparison of the ethic before eating, during eating, and after eating on each countries. The first point, before eating. In the US, people usually wait until everyone is served. In UK, they wait for the host to start eating first or to give the signal. Meanwhile, in Indonesia, we wait for the elders or the most respected person to eating first. And during eating, these are some authentic ethic from each countries during the eating. In the US, they don't add salt or season the food until they taste it. In UK, they break off a small piece of bread and butter it, like they don't butter the whole slice or half a roll at one time. And in Indonesia, we are common to only using hands while eating. The next point is the similarities between US, UK, and Indonesia while during eating. So in those all three countries, we never slurp our soup. Also, we don't chew with an open mouth and always keep the personal items off the table during the meal. And we don't have the cell phone at the table. All these three ethics during eating are the same in UK, US, and Indonesia. And we also have the similarities from US and UK, which are they always place napkin on their lap, which are they always place the napkin on their lap until finished, and if they leave the table during a meal, they place the napkin on the chair. They also don't put their elbows or resting their chin on their hands at the table. And the last one, alcohol or wine is a common thing in US and UK. After eating ethic from each countries. When finished eating, you need to use your silverware to indicate to the server that you are done. Think of your plate as a clock and then place your knife and fork facing the 10 and 4 position. The blade of the knife aims towards you, and then with the American style of eating, the tins of the fork face up, and then with the continental, the tines of the fork go down. In Indonesia, you just need to place the spoon and fork face up at 12 and 6 position. So that's all we've talked about the dining ethic of US, UK, and Indonesia. And the conclusion is that ethic in a region is usually always different from ethic in the other regions. Ethic mostly circles around the culture or the habits of the local people. A behavior that is considered rude in one culture, but in other culture may be considered not rude at all. That's why it is very important to learn about one's ethic to avoid misunderstanding. Those ethics of dining activities are not mandatory. However, when you want to join a dining, you should consider the manners that usually people in each country do. When you do some impolite action at the dining table, some people will feel reluctant to you. That is why ethic is important in doing everything. So I think that's all from us. Thank you so much for your attention and see you later. Bye.